if you're interested in learning how to cut records or just learning more about the industry to see if it's something that you might want to get into, this is the video for you. Unsurprisingly, I get a lot of questions about this. A lot of people ask me, where do I start? And this is something I struggled with for years. I was trying to find out how to get started in this weird and secretive world of record cutting. So in today's video, I'm going to talk a bit about how to just get started with record cutting, what you need to know. I'm going to show you some books, and then at the end I'm going to show you pretty much the only website you're going to need. So you can do some research, you can start learning without having to buy a lathe. And then once you've done that research and read a bit more and learned a bit more, you can decide if it's something you really want to invest a lot of money and time into, because it's you'll need to do that if you want to get into this industry before you commit to anything. So to start with, I'll tell you how I got started in it. I went to a record shop about 25 years ago, and it had a tiny little suitcase lathe upstairs, and this record shop cut one-off records for people, and I saw the process happening. They didn't sound that good, but it blew my mind that 1 minute there was just a blank disc, and then 10 minutes later there was audio on it and you could take it away and play it on a record player, and I was hooked. But it took me about nearly 20 years to actually find a lathe that I could buy and work on, maybe a bit less, but over the years I'd always look like, I'm going to get into this, how do I buy a lathe, where can I find one? And I'd just come up against a dead end after dead end. And finally, after lots of research and reaching out to a lot of people and talking to people, I managed to buy my first lathe, start learning, but it was a long process. It took me a couple of years to even start cutting. I had to put my lathe together, learn how it worked, solve a lot of problems, and it was very time consuming and very steep learning curve. So that's kind of my first point of this video, is that it's not an easy process. It's not a case of you save up some money, you go and buy a lathe, and then you can just start cutting records, start up a business, and everything's going to run smoothly. It's very much the opposite. Very few people actually make record cutting lathes. There are a couple of small teams or people that make bespoke, very small number lathes now. They're still hard to get hold of. There's waiting lists. They're expensive. So it's not a case of you decide to get into this and you just go out and buy one and get started. It's a lot of research first into that. There are limited suppliers of lathes themselves and all the bits that you need, the blank records, the diamond cutting stylus, various parts, all that kind of stuff. There's only a few people worldwide that actually sell the bits that you'll need, so you have to contend with a lot of waiting times, stuff getting fixed, stuff getting sent overseas, stuff getting stuck at customs. All of that plays into it. So it's very much a game of infinite patience, record cutting. And often, if you can buy a lathe, there'll be things that you want to upgrade, you want to change, and that means reaching out or finding someone who can make a custom part for you. There's no off-the-shelf parts in this industry. There's no one that just stocks bits that you'll need. So you have to sort of create relationships with people in fabrication world, in the 3D printing world, people that can make bespoke screws or bits of metal, pipes. There's so much of that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot, and I'm not trying to scare you off doing this. I'm not trying to put you off, but I'm trying to tell you the realities of getting into this, because this is something I got into, and there were points when I thought, like, what have I got myself into? I'm in over my head. But thankfully, I'm pretty stubborn, and I'm pretty once I set my mind to something, I really go for it. So, spent a lot of years learning how to do this and building relationships with people and going that way. So that's the kind of a bit of a quick overview, not to scare you off, but to give you the realities of record cutting. It's very difficult. It's very time consuming. A lot of your time will be sourcing bits, maintaining your lathe, rebuilding parts, taking it to bits, maintenance, or trying to find someone who can make a new motor part or a new overhead part, or something like that. And it's not as simple as buying a lathe and then you just press a button and it starts cutting records and you're away. There's a lot of problem solving. But on the plus side, if you're DIY minded, if you like taking things apart, if you like figuring stuff out, if you like problem solving, working with your hands, then this could be a really good hobby or job for you. You need to be sort of DIY minded. You need to be able to measure certain things, audio, electrical parts, physical parts as well. So if you're into that, it's very much engineering. And even if you've got a really good background in audio, that might not necessarily help you too much. There's a whole, record cutting is a whole nother thing. If you look at a lot of lathes, the audio part, the mastering part is all done before the cutting. The cutting is to do with temperature of the room, humidity of the room, depth of your cutter head, angle of your cutting head, weight of your cutting head, pitch of the cut, variable pitch, fixed pitch, all these different things, material of the discs you're cutting on, static in the room, anti-static spray or anti-static stuff that you can use to mitigate that, vacuum systems, all this kind of stuff, motor systems. There's so much you need to know about a lathe. So again, I feel like I'm scaring you off again. So I'm not trying to do that. So that's the realities. If you're into that stuff, you love it. If you're not into that, just don't get started, basically. So there are some books. They're hard to buy, but I'm going to show you them. I've got physical copies. So I'm going to show you them. You can keep your eyes out for them on eBay and they'll help you sort of learn a bit more about them. And after I've shown you these books, I'm going to show you a forum, which is really great for learning more. And there's lots of guides, lots of discussion, lots of really helpful people on there. So you can start to learn before you even start looking for a lathe. So I'm going to switch over to my phone that I've got here so I can show you these books close up and we can have a bit of a flick through. I'll just flick over to my phone and let's have a look. So these are my notes here for the video. So the first one is Basic Disc Mastering by Larry Bowden. This is kind of the Bible. This is great. It's everything you need to know in one handy book. And now I think all the copies have been bought of this at the minute, but you will be able to find them if you keep your eyes on eBay and stuff. So let's have a look at the contents. How grooves work, the cutting lathe, mastering, low frequency, oscilloscope, microscope, lacquer, cutting stylus. Now all these terms might not mean a lot to you and that's fine, but this book breaks everything down and it's really interesting and it's digestible even for a beginner. So this is what grooves look like under a microscope. Here's some stylus stuff. Here's kind of how cutting stylus works. Here's some more groove geometry stuff. These are really interesting stereo grooves with information on the left channel only. So you can see like the left side of the groove has information, the right side is completely flat. These are the coils of a cutter head. Here are some old cutting lathes. So this book's great. It's got loads of pictures and loads of visual references, lots of groove geometry stuff, variable pitch systems, grooves, overcuts, lots of stuff. Don't worry if this doesn't mean anything, that's fine. Here are some more pictures of stuff, lots of pictures, mastering console. So this is really great because it gives you an idea of your complete beginner. Lacquer, cutting stylus, goes into the diamonds. Here's some pressing stuff. That's like the metal stuff at the pressing stage. Let's have a flick through. A bit more of cutting heads info. Some more cutting head stuff. Circuits. So it does go into some decent detail. It tells you about different types of lathes. Yeah, so super interesting, but it's got lots of pictures and and we all like a picture book. But really, they are really important because there's not a lot of this info available. So to be able to see these machines, that's a microscope with a cutting head, so someone's changing the cutting stylus. Lots of Neumann stuff, circuit diagrams, tape transfer stuff as well. Different brands of lathe and tape and stuff. So yeah, there you go. So that's just a quick flick through that. So this is a great one. If you can get your hands on this, this is brilliant. And like I say, it's digestible for a beginner. There might be stuff that you read through and you don't quite understand, but that's, you know, there's going to be a lot of that if you want to get into this industry. Now these two are the real heavyweights. These are quite rare. These are really difficult to get in as physical copies. And these are basically, these go into even more detail than the previous book. So if we have a look at the content page, so we've got groove geometry. So we've got, say, what, nearly 200 pages just on groove geometry, cutter heads, record pressing, and this one goes into a lot more maths and physics, and gets into the real deep measurement side of record cutting, which can be a bit overwhelming. Now, you don't really need to learn all of this complicated stuff just to get started. This is, yeah, some of this is really in depth, and you don't need to know it quite as in depth if you just want to start cutting some records. But if you want to start learning in depth, these are the ones to buy. So this first one is more about the cutting side, and then this one is more about the playback side. And again, they just go into so much detail. With this is a bit stiff, it's had some water damage at some point. So much detail, lots of measurement stuff basically in these. Yeah, just measurements all over the place. So they're the three books kind of available on record cutting. Like I say, this is the most accessible, so that's the place to start. But like I say, you don't need to know everything super in depth just to get started. It is, like I was saying at the beginning, it is a very technical process, and it's kind of up to you how deep you go into it. You can start and get sound onto a disc without knowing a lot of that stuff, but the more you get into it and the more you want to improve and the more you'll want to improve your lathe, the more you kind of need to read and learn on all that kind of stuff. So that's a bit more of the heavy side, a bit more in-depth side stuff. But let's now go and look at basically the only and the best forum that there is for record cutting, and that is the secret society of the lathe trolls. Yeah, that's right, we're all trolls in this game. So here we go. This is the Lathe Trolls site, and this is a forum with lots of different sections to it. I'll just wait for this to load. So there's general discussions about mastering, lacquer cutting, plating, pressing. There's experimenters and innovators. There is a classified section as well. So when you're ready to actually buy a lathe or start looking, you can keep your eye on this, and you might be able to find someone who's selling a lathe in your country and actually pick one up. But the best thing about this is the newbie forum. So this has some amazing information. There's even a starter guide here with a couple of pages of info written by Mike Dixon, who is based in the US, and he's just a fountain of knowledge for all things record cutting, especially for a certain brand of record cutting machines called Presto, which I have some of those machines, and Mike's great. He can help you get started. He can usually sell you a lathe as well. He finds lathes, restores them and sells them to people, delivers them by hand, trains people and all sorts. So he's written a super helpful guide, and when you're ready to buy a lathe, he's the guy to talk to. And there's also loads of questions on here as well. So basically, if you come on here, read the newbie starter guide, read through the newbie forum, and just spend a couple of months on here, you'll really start to know or get to know more about the record cutting, just all the terminology, the different types of lathes, what you think you will need if you want to get into this industry. And this is super helpful. I wish I came across this forum earlier in my career, because like I said at the beginning, I was just kind of Googling like how to buy a record cutting machine and unsurprisingly no results really come up. Sometimes you can find stuff on eBay, and what you'll find on eBay generally are smaller suitcase cutting lathes, which are about the size of a normal record player with a lid, and they have a little cutting head on. They're very low quality, and they're a pain in the arse really. And then they were manufactured really more for home use, for hobbyists and stuff like that. You won't really get decent sounding cuts that you'll then be able to do for other people or make a business out of, because they'll just be too lo-fi really. This is where to start basically. Make an account on here and just spend time on it. Just read through it, and like I say, it's not a quick thing. You'll probably need to spend a month or two just reading through, getting to grips with different terminology, and after a while you'll start to sort of understand what people are talking about, understand the differences between different types of lathes, different types of the way you can cut or emboss sound onto a disc. different suppliers and all that kind of stuff. So this is the best resource really if you want to learn about record cutting. So that's it really. I think that's really, don't want to overload you with too much information. And like I said at the beginning, I'm not trying to scare you off with all of this, but it is important to know that it's a very in-depth and involved process. But thankfully, Lathe Trolls Forum will give you some amazing information. And there's also some Facebook groups of people who are more into the lathe cutting side of things or more into the lacquer cutting side of things. On Facebook, did I say that? I might have said that. Facebook groups where people hang out, and it's often the same people that also hang out on Lathe Trolls as well. So that's it. There's some books to look at, a website to look at. That's where to start. What I should say as well as telling you all the scary stuff, it is really fun and really satisfying when you get good sounding records and you can cut a sound onto a disc and hold it and go and play it straight away. It's very cool, and it's once you get the kind of bitten by the bug, you'll be hooked, and it's all you'll want to do. So it is very cool as well. So I just want to mention that bit in case I just seem like I'm sort of scaremongering you all. But anyway, I'm going to stop waffling on. There's some resources. Go away, check those out, and you can get in touch with me with questions. I can put you in touch with other people as well if you're really serious about getting into this. And if you've seen any of this channel before, you'll notice a background change behind me. This is one of my lathes that I've been restoring. I've got some new parts arrived this week. I'm waiting on some new parts, so I'm going to do a video very soon where I put together this from scratch, because at the minute that is just an empty piece of steel or raw iron. Not iron, what am I talking about? It's not raw iron, it is cast iron. Anyway, that's not important, but that is just an empty shell. There's nothing in there. So in a video soon, I'm going to show you, I'm going to put the motor in, I'm going to put the overhead system on, I'm going to put the cutting head system on, the platter, loads of stuff. So that should be interesting. And as always, more mastering stuff coming up as well. I've got some songs to master that I'm going to walk you through. So loads more mastering, loads more disc cutting stuff. And like I say, as always, I'm on hand to help out where I can. You can leave questions in the comments, email me, get in touch, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to go. I've got lots of work to do, so I better crack on. As always, I hope everyone's well. You can reach out anytime, and I'll see you next time.